Hello, hello. It's March now. So, it's time for the February reading wrap up that we've all been waiting for. I didn't read that much this February. I read steadily. I always do, but I only finished 3 books, so let's start with The Return of the King, right? I love this book. I finished my reread of Lord of the Rings this month, and I love this book. I just said that. Okay. This is my personal favorite, I think, of the bunch, which, it's honestly a very tough choice, but this one has the most Merry and Pippin separated from the other characters. I mean, mostly I love Pippin. He's my favorite, so that's what kind of pushes it over the edge for me, is just the sheer amount of solo Pippin content, if you will. But, like I say, it's tough. I don't know. There's amazing things in Fellowship of the Ring and Two Towers as well. So it's just like, okay, but anyway, I think this is my favorite. And I just really, really loved reading it again. I just thought it was wonderful. Look at the beautiful, this is the boat sailing to Valinor, words. This is the boat, right? Isn't that pretty? And there's this is Minas Tirith, I think. Anyway, one thing I thought was really cool was reading the description of Minas Tirith. It was like, oh shit, that's just exactly what it looks like in the movie. Cool. So that was nice. Boy, was this book a journey. I cried a lot while reading it, especially for some reason, I mean, a lot of different times, but the death of Theoden always gets me, just everything in that kind of particular section, that one chapter. The very ending always gets me. But there's also just stuff in there kind of after, I mean, okay, Frodo and Sam, once the ring has been destroyed, when Frodo is all just like, I'm glad to have you with me here, Sam, at the end of all things. I'm like, fuck me, right? Tears. So it was kind of funny because then my sister and I watched the movie several days after I finished the book. And I actually cried way less while watching the movie because I was like, I feel like the emotions, they have come out of me and I'm okay. I mean, I still did cry twice, but way less than my sister did, so that was funny. I just love this book. I just love it so much. I think it's so good. I didn't read the appendices because I basically never do. And also because I was just emotionally drained and I was like, I can't read even the part that I was planning on reading, which was the tale of Aragorn and Arwen and their love. I was like, no, it's just gonna make me sob again. I can't do this. Yeah. So this is really what I spent the first half of the month reading. And I took a work trip for a few days and I didn't want to bring, this massive, heavy book with me. So I had to pause it and I picked up something else, which is also a very large book, but physically, it's smaller, it's bendable, it's a lot lighter. Okay, but it's also 800 pages long. Anyway, this is Dhalgren by Samuel R. Delany. And this book, I really liked it, but I feel like this is just the curse of the attempt to booktube, because how the fuck do I explain this book? I can't. It's sort of technically sci-fi, kinda. Let's see, let's just read the back. Well, first of all, it says it's perhaps one of the most profound and best-selling science fiction novels of all time, which I find fascinating because I've never actually heard of it until I kind of stumbled across it on Goodreads or something. This is not one that I think has escaped from the sci-fi circle of just people who are really into sci-fi. Your average person has never heard of this book. I want to guarantee that. Anyway, Bologna is a city at the dead center of the United States. Something has happened there. The population has fled. Madmen and criminals wander the streets. Strange portents appear in the clouds-covered sky. Into this disaster zone comes a young man, poet, lover, and adventurer, known only as the Kid. Tackling questions of race, gender, and sexuality, Dahlgren is a literary marvel and groundbreaking work of American magical realism. It's like, it is very good. I don't know about questions of gender, really. I didn't really feel like that. I don't know why, but when I picked this up, I was like, maybe the Kid is somehow, maybe I thought like the Kid was gonna have a more fluid gender or something, but he's just a guy. I don't know. But race and sexuality, yeah, definitely. But like this is, yeah, magical realism is a good way to describe it, definitely, like, because I don't want to say it's sci-fi and then have you kind of picture something utterly different than what it is, because it's very much like this young man who does not remember his name, but he does remember other stuff about himself, just not his name, comes to this city, and it's sort of like, it's completely fallen apart, and no one's entirely clear on why. Like, apparently maybe there was some sort of riot, but a lot of people have left, and sort of the entire social structure is just kind of turned upside down. It's a big mess. And it's just largely about him like meeting people and having kind of just odd encounters and strange things happening, and like you see how all these different people are kind of dealing with what has happened there. And oh, the title, who is Dahlgren? So I think Dahlgren is a person, because it's a name that comes up on a list of names of people who have gone missing or something. But like, is this book going to explain what's going on? No, it's not. You need to accept that going in. Also, like this last section of it is super interesting because it's written like in multiple chunks. Like this guy has a piece of paper, or he has a journal, and he's writing different stories on the same piece of paper, just in different maybe pens or something. And there's parts of it, let's see if I can find, where someone has been editing it, but then they stop. Okay, you can see like there's words that are crossed out. And it's so strange, but that's only the final section of the book. The rest of it before that is more normal. But yeah, it's odd, and like there's things that you don't get an explanation for, really most of it. And at one point they look up in the sky and there's just a second moon up there, and it's like, what the fuck? I want to mention that this is from the 1970s. And it has queer characters, so that's great. It's always interesting to me when I read, anything that's older that has queer characters, because it's like, it's interesting just because it's so easy for a book to just do that, and to just be so matter-of-fact about it. And then you watch a TV show, and for everybody's always tripping over their words, and like, we just have to imply things and be really awkward about it, and it's a weird difference. But anyway, this book was truly a lot, and I'm glad I read it, and I really want to read more stuff by Samuel R. Delany here. I've never read anything else, just this. I think he has at least one Hugo Award-winning novel, which I should read. But yeah, I don't even know what to do. Okay, so I did read one other book this month, which was the audiobook, which was nonfiction. Off the top of my head, can I remember the title? Adam Rutherford's book, A Brief History of Everyone Who Ever Lived, which is about genetics. And it's specifically about what can we learn looking at the genetics of the human race, the human species, over the last 100,000 years. So like, it's a little hard to tell at what point can you make the cutoff and say these people here are human beings past a certain point. Like they're Homo sapiens, because species, it's a nebulous concept. But in the book he says about 200,000 years, maybe. So getting like actual DNA samples, of course, is harder, but 100,000 years of human history, and we've only really had about 6,000 years of written history. So like everything before that is prehistory, you see. But it's wild. Like it was an interesting book. He goes and talks about a lot of different things. I've already forgotten a lot of details, but I always do. But I think it's definitely worth reading if that's a subject matter that's interesting to you. Like, because it gives you a good idea of like what it's possible to know from a person's genetics or from a population's genetics, because there's a lot of stuff out there that'll tell you, you know, you can know all of these very specific things when you really can't. And I think it's helpful to learn about like what the limitations are of what genetics can really tell you and what you can really know, and rather than just kind of go, well, you know, like this gene that is in you, say, if you get your gene sequenced, you have this gene which is seen like in this percentage more likely in people with this trait. You know, like there's so few genes that are really going to tell you, okay, you have this gene, so you have X. And like, it's so much more complicated than that. But it was an interesting book, and he talks about like he doesn't go around the whole world and talk about really about populations around the whole world, but he does talk about some interesting populations in different places. I thought Iceland was particularly interesting because Iceland is, it's just an interesting example because like we know when people specifically actually went to Iceland for the first time, and they kept records of a lot of the people who lived in Iceland from the beginning. And also they also like, there's not that many of them, and a lot of them they're like all related. So they have this whole system where it's like, okay, can you two get married, or are you too related for that? And you have to like look yourself up on a database. It's really interesting. But anyway, it makes for an interesting like almost experiment in human genetics, just kind of that's just naturally happened. But stuff like that, and you know, I thought it was good. And yeah, so overall, like I had success in the books that I read. I just feel bad that I only finished 3 of them, and I actually only finished Dahlgren on the last day of February with a lot of effort, because I was like, God damn it, I'm gonna do this. But I had to read 100 pages in one day, so that was kind of a lot. But anyway, I think we're about good. Oh, I should mention maybe Dahlgren was on my list this year, my 20 books list, so I'm still working on that really slowly, not fast enough. But yeah, hopefully I'll read more books in March. It's a longer month, but it's only like 3 days longer, so it's like not that impressive. Wait, can I do math? Yeah, 3 days longer. Okay, sure. It's not that big a difference, but there's like people walking outside my window. I don't like it. But anyway, until then, I guess. Or actually, like, I should try and make another video about something else. Probably science fiction. I don't know. That's what I like. So I'll see you when I see you.